Japan in particular, all coming together to agree on the most dramatic sanctions that I think if you were to talk to officials just 5 or 6 days ago weren't viewed as on the table, underscores the significance of this moment when it comes to financial markets and the repercussions. I want to start, as you noted, with the central bank. The decision today by the U.S. and the EU to freeze all assets from the Russian central bank, either in dollar denominations, EU denominations, or in U.S. or EU countries, any transactions with those countries as well in in dollars or EUs, is significant. It further isolates Russia from the financial system. Think of the Russian central bank as kind of the heartbeat of the Russian financial system primarily, and I think this is when you talk to officials what they're pointing to most. Over the course of the last several years, President Putin has built up the fourth largest foreign currency reserve in the world, $630+ billion, and part of the reason that decision was made was to try and insulate from Western sanctions. Essentially, this would allow them to prop up their own currency. This would allow them to provide liquidity to their banks. This would allow them, in some quarters, to be viewed as sanctions-proof. No longer when you go directly at the central bank and start to freeze assets across the globe. Now, when you want to figure out how rare this is to target a country's central bank, look at the countries that have been targeted before. Venezuela, Iran, Syria, all viewed as malign actors. The difference here, perhaps more than anything else, no country, the scale of Russia's economy, $1.7 trillion, or the integration of Russia's economy, has ever been targeted with sanctions like this before. It just underscores the moment we're in right now and the scale of the response on it.
The economic impact continues to pile, as we mentioned. This is on top of the growing list of other sanctions and restrictions. What are some of those other sanctions and the impact that they're having so far?
Yeah, I think this is a great point because as dramatic as the central bank actions were, it can't be viewed in isolation. It's almost part of a quilt of a sanctions regime that is really taking a full-blown bite out of the Russian economy. You obviously have the central bank actions. You have export controls, not just by the U.S., but by a coalition of countries. What that does is that basically shuts the door to Western technology that is critical for Russian industries, like defense, like aerospace, like biotech. Russia is a low-productivity economy. They don't make these things. If you cut off access to those things, over time it will atrophy the industrial base. As you noted, President Putin, Sergei Lavrov, the foreign minister, all sanctioned on an individual basis, as well as top Putin allies and some of their family members. Russian banks will be expelled from SWIFT. Now, it's not the entire Russian economy taken off of this kind of backbone of global markets and trades. It's a messaging system, but taking banks off in coordination with the bank sanctions that have been applied over the course of the last couple of days will essentially decimate those financial institutions inside of Russia, and they no longer have the lifeline in the Russian central bank as it attempts to prop up its own currency. The ability to deploy liquidity is severely limited. Obviously, state-owned companies, they're banned from financing on the U.S. side of things, on the EU side of things as well. Outside investment is critical to their survival. And also we're seeing Russian aircraft banned. The EU, Canada, potentially other countries in the days ahead. You get a full sense of why the effect has been so dramatic. The ruble just cratering over the course of the last couple of days. Obviously, increasingly isolated from the world economy. Russia had its lowest day on record in the stock market on Friday. Today, it's closed. The potential for run on banks, we've seen the lines in Moscow, people trying to get their money out. That is expected to only increase in the days ahead as the sanctions fully are implemented on it.
And the Kremlin, again, trying to sort of brush off this idea that Putin himself is sanctioned, but we are starting to hear some grumbling from Russian oligarchs who are very powerful in the country. Tell us more about that.
With good reason, and here's why. When you sanction an individual, obviously Vladimir Putin doesn't have a JP Morgan account and a 401k necessarily, right? And so the actual impact from an individual country unilaterally sanctioning or freezing the assets of a world leader or some of the top oligarchs has been questionable. Their finances are opaque, buried in specific places. Now, when you put together a full coalition of countries who are making clear they will go after yachts, they will go after apartments, they will go after property, you have major problems if you are one of the Russian oligarchs who has planted a lot of your money in those types of assets. Those are now all in play. Today, we have heard over the course of the day, Mikhail Friedman, the chairman of Alfa Bank, one of the richest men in Russia, was born in western Ukraine, sent a note out to his company. His overall net worth, $11.4 billion, calling for an end to the bloodshed with the war that's ongoing right now. Oleg Deripaska, another Russian billionaire who was actually sanctioned in the Trump administration. Those sanctions were removed off him and his company, aluminum mogul, $28 billion, now calling for peace, clarifications of economic policy. There's no no sense right now when I talk to U.S. officials, Anna, that oligarchs feeling pain is going to dramatically change President Putin's behavior. However, these are critical individuals with real money, real assets inside Putin's inner circle. The more they start to voice their concerns, obviously, the more impact it may have on how Russia operates, Anna.
Phil Mattingly.